Some may think it's a bit too much, but this is what the regal feel or the regal ambience of tandoor was all about way back in the 80s and 90s. I'm told that when they opened this restaurant, this show kitchen that you see out here, actually it's only the tandoor that you see, was also the first of its kind. Well, the one thing I grossly underestimated is the portion size. Paneer is nice and soft, and that char gives it a certain depth of flavor. And I like the fact that these are nice tandoor mote gobi. Well, I'm surrounded by our main courses here. So what I'd originally ordered was this murg handi wala, which is like a home style curry, a Punjabi curry. Quite thin as opposed to, let's say, butter chicken or something like that. I wanted to eat something light. But then Mr. Raj Singh, he said, no, you cannot go without trying my butter chicken. So I also have a butter chicken that's found its way to our table here. I want to taste that dal first. Bit of the tartness of the tomato that I'm tasting in that right away. The warmth of the ginger. In addition to the meat pieces in this, there's also motis of mutton keema. Hi folks, and welcome to an episode of The Review, a brand new show here on Food Lovers TV, where it's just you, me and the food. In the first season of this show, we're exploring Bengaluru restaurants from the 90s that were a special outing back then and are still relevant today. I hope you've got the previous episodes in this series. In case you haven't, I'm going to place a link to the playlist in the description below. Do take a look when you can. And yes, if you've been watching us for a while and haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe and hit the bell icon. It really helps us in the work that we do. If you were around in Bengaluru in the 80s or 90s, the name tandoor meant something. This wasn't just a restaurant. It was a destination for authentic North Indian fine dining. Regal interiors, rich curries, flavorful kebabs. Tandoor on MG Road set the benchmark for a generation. It was a place for celebrations, for corporate dinners, for those looking for serious North Indian food. But decades later, with Bengaluru's culinary scene exploding and online reviews telling a very mixed story, the big question remains, does tandoor still hold its royal crown? And that's what I was here to find out. So I'd forgotten how beautiful this restaurant looked back in the day and still looks. So this restaurant goes back nearly 44 years. I'm told it opened sometime in the 80s when a gentleman from Delhi, one Mr. Chadda, moved to Bengaluru and set up tandoor here in Centenary Building on MG Road. Some may think it's a bit too much, but this is what the regal feel or the regal ambience of tandoor was all about way back in the 80s and 90s. And I'm told they've had a makeover in the last couple of years, and therefore it still looks very nice and fresh. Of course, it's very colorful with the pillars, ornate murals, the chandeliers, the paintings and all of that. But I think it's a sort that creates a mood and therefore also an expectation when you're dining here. Heritage Indian restaurant and bar. Well, you can't miss that on the walls. So you've got a comprehensive bar menu. You've got everything that you need from a full stock bar there, from your single malts to your scotch to your wines by the glass, liqueurs, etc. So back in the day, tandoor was also the place where you would take somebody who was visiting from overseas and you wanted to expose them visually to a burst of Indian aesthetic. I guess you brought them to a restaurant like this, especially if we were looking at the sort of Indian food that people overseas relate to, whether it's the curries, the kebabs and things like that. I would say that even today, for an expat who walks in here, it would be very delightful from their perspective. Let's keep the bar menu aside and look at the food menu, because that's what we are here for, right? I can hear somebody go dahi kebab in the background there. That lady seems to know what she's ordering, so perhaps that's a cue for us too, and perhaps for you too. The masala papads. You remember that? When you dined back in the 80s or 90s, you went to a restaurant, the first thing that came out was a papad. There's a tawa aloo chaat, masala peanuts, pakodas, samosas, gosht cocktail samosas, 8 pieces, boneless murg pakodas, 8 pieces. So I guess this is also the sort of place that you came in a large group. Portion sizes mattered and also the number of pieces mattered. You had enough to go around and nobody was embarrassed on the table. You know, that's the sort of dining that I remember back then, right? Everything was plentiful. Unlike presentations of today, you go to some restaurants, you'll order a dim sum and there are 3 that come and there are 4 of you. So you have to do 2 of them and therefore you've got 6 now. Now who eats? But I guess the old restaurants understood that and therefore portions were always in a manner that allowed you to share without worry or cause for embarrassment. The tikkas, I'm told that when they opened this restaurant, this show kitchen that you see out here, actually it's only the tandoor that you see, was also the first of its kind in Bengaluru or the south, I'm not sure. Harabara kebab, Phool Gobi. I remember the Phool Gobi also was popular back then, I'm not sure now. The mushroom, tandoori, veg platter. So you can also do like a complete platter, 16 pieces, 950 rupees, which I guess includes all the kebabs here. 16 pieces. A fairly large selection of both vegetarian and non-vegetarian items. It's going to be tough now to order. Galoti kebab, seekh kebab, tawa gosh, Rane Sartaj. This I'm told is popular, but it's a very big portions. And then of course main course is again a large selection out here. So I think whether you're a vegetarian or a non-vegetarian, you'll find ample things to order from. The menu looks like it's a sort that's been thumbed over by quite a few passionate foodies. It is a bit greasy. There's a Hyderabadi murg biryani, a Lucknowi Motiya gosht biryani. But there's 3 pages of breads, my goodness. Right from a tandoori roti kulcha to things like the keema kulcha and the keema naan alongside the stuffed paneer kulcha. So I think when you come here and if you're visiting for the first time, well, allow yourself time. Don't be in a hurry. Good afternoon, how are you? That's Mr. Colin, the manager here. How long have you been here?
It's my 19th year, sir.
19th year. Fantastic. So you've seen this place change over the years?
Yes, it's a lot.
I want to do a combination of vegetarian, non-vegetarian, and maybe about 3 main courses.
We have paneer tikka, we have paneer malmali.
Paneer malmali.
Malmali is creamy sauce, sir.
Creamy sauce.
Creamy sauce.
Non-paneer?
We have tandoori gobi, we have harabara kebab.
You used to do broccoli earlier.
We stopped using it, it's not moving fast.
Yeah?
Chicken, we have chicken tikka, we have malai chicken tikka, then we have the kalmi kebab.
We'll do the chicken tikka for sure.
Chicken tikka. We have the fish tikka, which you shouldn't be missing.
Oh, what fish do you use?
Sea fish only.
Okay, let's do the fish tikka then.
Kripal, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, good to see you. Huh?
Oh my goodness.
You're surprised to see me here?
Yes, after such a long time.
Well, that's Mr. Raj Singh, instrumental for tandoor. So who was the founder of this restaurant?
Mr. B.S. Chadda,
Okay.
MD of Ajaz Group, also who makes the famous bus.
The bus bodies, okay. What is their connection to restauranting then?
Passion of food, because they are from Delhi and their uncles were also legendary restaurant owner called Moti Mahal.
Mr. Chadda's uncle, that is Mr. Bhupinder Singh Chadda.
Yes.
So he came from Delhi.
He's a passionate food. He has a lot of recipe in the restaurant. And we were the first who had a see-through kitchen.
So when you began this, what was Bengaluru's culinary scene like?
Hardly any, except one, I think, quality, hardly any other restaurant were there which serves authentic, ethnic Indian food. North Indian food, I'd say. But North Indian food like Punjabi, Mughlai and Tandoori were very rare in Bangalore those 44 years before.
It's not that you're just surviving, you seem to be doing well.
Thank you. Yes, we have past 44 years, the same place.
How do restaurants stay relevant for 44 years?
Mr. Amanna, this is just for the love of what I get from you all, from the guests, keeps us going. And keep our quality of food and services.
Long back, they used to have something called Avdi Murg.
Avdi Murg.
That I couldn't see it in the menu.
Okay.
But now you can try that tawa gosht.
How often do you come here?
Maybe once in 2 or 3 months.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wonderful. And you guys, he's brought you guys here?
Yes.
This is
So
our first time.
your first time. So
we're trying the food that he's recommending us to
yeah.
try.
So hopefully you go back happy after his recommendations.
Yes.
Huh? Well, the one thing I grossly underestimated is the portion size and the hurry with which the kitchens here dish the food out. I had to do a masala papad That's a nice crunchy papad topped with tomato, the onions, the green chilies, some coriander. Earlier, you go to a restaurant, especially a North Indian restaurant, the first thing that would come to you would be a papad. And if you wanted to order something a little more mazedar, the masala papad. So I've got a bunch of dishes here. Tandoori gobi, paneer, malmali. I think this is in a creamy marinade of sorts. You got the standard chicken tikka, and then we have the fish tikka, which is the sear fish. I've got the Tandoori Phool Gobi, I've got the Paneer Malmali, I've got the fish tikka. I think it's the Bulan Shahri fish tikka and also a chicken tikka. There's also the customary sirke wali piyaz and the pudina chutney that you have on the table. I think I'm going to begin with that Paneer Malmali kebab. When I look at a kebab, I want that kebab to be a little juicy. You want to see that char from the tandoor, and you want it to be, especially if it's a paneer, you want it to be soft. So what you see out here is the char of the cream that it's been marinated in, and that has formed a nice crust around the edges of the paneer. Paneer is nice and soft, and that char gives it a certain depth of flavor. Also, the seasoning has gone all the way into the paneer. Sometimes when you're eating paneer, especially in a form like this, and this is a thick chunk, you find that the flavors may not have seeped all the way in. But this one certainly is nice and rich and creamy, and also seasoned all the way through. I think it'll also benefit from some mint chutney, just to add a bit of a minty zing. As I was doing my research on this restaurant, I saw a lot of mixed reviews. So I didn't know what to expect. There's a lot of work that goes into producing a video like this. You may consume it in about 20-25 minutes, but it's a few days that goes into production. I would have done my research beforehand to know that the restaurant's worthy of a visit. But in this one, I wasn't so sure. But since this was a season featuring the restaurants of Bengaluru from the 90s, you had to have tandoor in it. And I must say that whatever I've seen until now, what's on the table, I've only tasted the paneer. But the tables that I see around of customers who seem to know exactly what they're ordering, that reassures me of its relevance. This is easily what 6 people can order, because for example in the gobi, you've got about 6 or 7 pieces of the gobi, 8 chunky pieces of the paneer tikka, you've got about 6 pieces of the fish, 7 or 8 pieces of the chicken tikka. This food is good enough for 5 people actually. On that note, let's move to that gobi. I like the char of the gobi, and I like the fact that these are nice tandoor mote gobi. I can taste a hint of saffron in that somewhere. I'm not sure if there's some milk solids that also go into that marinade, into that paste. I'm certainly tasting a bit of its creamy richness. Quite mellow. I'm not sure, but there's probably also some paste in that. Maybe some cashew paste. I'm tasting a bit of that heavy pastiness that comes from that. It's a tasty gobi, nothing to fault here. Bit of that grittiness, that sandy grittiness in that gobi. They could have done a slightly better job getting rid of some of that. On that note, let's head to the fish. The Bulan Shahri Machi tikka. Nice and chunky, but has cooled down a bit. But that fish is fresh. I really appreciate places that make some effort in procuring their seafood. Right? So for instance, out here, this is a North Indian restaurant. The standard orders must be the chicken, the mutton and things like that. So therefore, they could have very easily said, okay, fine, when it comes to the fish, let's do something like basa and leave it at that. But no, they're doing the sear. That fish is nice and flaky. I think had I tasted this hot, this would have been excellent. The spicing too is just mild and warming. And now for that solitary chicken tikka. Lovely char again around the edges. The bird is nice and moist. This may also be a slightly noisy video because the restaurant is fast filling up. I also have company around me. But that's the sort of restaurant experience Tandoor is all about. And it's also its location, right? You're bang in the middle of MG Road. Everybody comes to the heart of town. There's shopping, there's offices and all of that. Whether you want to take a break from work or whether you want to take a break from shopping. Well, this restaurant is ideally placed. Let's taste the chicken tikka. I'm tasting a bit of the sour acidity that comes from some lime, and that to me is slightly overpowering the warmth that I would have wanted to taste in that tikka. Also a bit of the salty edge that I'm finding in this tikka. But the bird is nice and moist inside. And I guess when you come here, make friends with that pudina chutney, because that certainly is a sort that elevates the flavors. What this kebab needs is a bit of a dunk in that pudina chutney, just to bring in a bit of its zingy freshness and also tone down some of the salt. Also, if I have to fault it, certain parts of that chicken is charred a bit too much. Perhaps the tandoor was too hot when it went in, and therefore that char is crusty and also a bit bitter, as you can see in that plate. Well, I'm surrounded by our main courses here. So I've already helped myself to a couple of the dishes, but what do we have on the table? So what I'd originally ordered was this murg handi wala, which is like a home style curry, a Punjabi curry. Quite thin as opposed to, let's say, butter chicken or something like that. I wanted to eat something light. But then Mr. Raj Singh, he said, no, you cannot go without trying my butter chicken. So I also have a butter chicken that's found its way to our table here. So we got the butter chicken, and then we have the paneer lababdar, which is basically onion, tomato sort of a gravy. And then Mr. Raj Singh also said you cannot leave without trying my dal makhani, and also that Awadhi gosht pulao, and that's the mutton which is served with a raita. I'm just waiting for some hot roti. I want to taste that dal first. A bit of the tartness of the tomato that I'm tasting in that right away. The warmth of the ginger. Very even, mellow sort of a dal. I'm also tasting somewhere a bit of the warmth of the chili. That's quite an enjoyable dal actually. I'm glad Mr. Singh recommended that. Not too heavy. There's a nice khatas that's cutting through. Certainly a dal that you want to have a little more of.
बटर चिकन और दाल मखनी हमारा होम स्पेशल है, तंदूर में स्पेशल। बेसिकली आदमी लोग आते हैं इसके लिए, बटर चिकन और दाल मखनी।
बटर चिकन और दाल मखनी के लिए फैंटास्टिक, वेरी गुड। You know, normally sometimes you get weighed down by the dal makhani because you're tasting a lot of the ghee, a lot of the cream, the butter in that.
और दाल मखनी समथिंग डिफरेंट। 5 टाइप्स ऑफ दाल रहता है उसमें। एंडिंग टाइम में हमें जाके उसमें बिठा देता, तंदूर में जो आग रहता है ना।
ओवरनाइट
बॉयल होते रहता है।
तो इसमें क्या है? काली उड़द है, राजमा है, मूंग दाल है, मसूर है, और तुअर भी डालते हो? 5 टाइप्स ऑफ दाल्स। वेरी नाइस। Thank you, Niladri. Well, also nice to meet people, staff who know the food. Certainly is a dal that is quite tasty. And now for some of that paneer lababdar. Oh, it's got a nice tangy, oniony sort of a gravy. So that paneer has been sliced and then sauteed in a pan, and therefore it also has a certain firmness to the touch. The gravy of this has a certain sweetness and also tang. So I don't know if there's some good or sugar that goes into it, certainly something to sweeten it. And then you've got the savory crunch of the onions. I'm also tasting the flavor of the zeera in this. I also learned from Mr. Raj Singh that out here they don't do ready-made masalas, they hand pound their masalas themselves, and I can certainly taste that. I can certainly taste that character of that coarse zeera in that paneer lababdar. You're tasting the paneer, but in the company of the onions and the tomato. So the character of the paneer doesn't really shine so much as that entire assemblage. Once you get past the onions and the tomatoes, that's when you taste a bit of that creamy graininess of the paneer, the dardarapan of the paneer. If you like something a little sweet and tangy, I think this is a dish that you can try. More khandi?
Punjabi.
Punjabi. Thoda gravy, lovely, thank you. Butter chicken. The home style chicken curry. So this is chicken that's cooked on the bone. The curry even is a sort that's quite runny. I can taste some fenugreek in that. I think some kasuri methi. And also the flavors from poppy seeds. There's also some translucent slivers of onion that I'm tasting in that curry too. So this is a very home style sort of a Punjabi curry. So if you want to taste something that's light, I think when you're tasting chicken on the bone, there's always a certain depth to that flavor, right? The chicken is quite soft and the sort that peels gently off the bone. It's a very light gravy and the sort that will lend to being mopped with that roti. On that note, the butter chicken. This masala has a certain dardarapan to it. The gravy is not velvety, creamy like you would sometimes find in a butter chicken. But this one I feel is a little more rustic. For want of a better word, dehati. It's quite rustic in its character, in that dardarapan of that gravy. You've got that nice tandoori chicken with its charred bits. And that bird is nicely marinated. But more than the flavor of the chicken, I'm enjoying the flavor of that gravy. I've got two more dishes to taste after this. The mutton rogan josh and also the mutton biryani. There's a certain sweetness that I'm tasting to that gravy that perhaps comes from the onions. The color out here is a little darkish brown as opposed to sometimes you see it red. So the red that you see in a mutton rogan josh comes from very interesting ingredient called the maval, which is the cockscomb flower. I don't know if they use that in this or not, but that's what contributes to that reddish color that you see in a rogan josh. But out here the colors are a little more darker brown, perhaps from the onion. What I want to do is go for this with some of that butter naan. There's some sesame too that you see speckled on that butter naan. Butter naan is cold, but that gravy is quite busy, is quite hot. That sesame from that butter naan is a sort that gets in the way of your enjoyment of the dish. But that gravy certainly is a bit on the sweeter side. That's what I'm tasting. Get a piece of the naan without any of the sesame. The restaurant's gone quiet. I think between that 1 and 2:30, there was a big buzz. And I guess that's when people step out for lunch from their offices. But now it's gone quiet. There are only about 3 tables in the restaurant. Let's taste some of that mutton. That mutton seems to be nice and soft. That mutton is quite soft. Also a bit of fat that is holding on to that piece of meat. I'm not tasting the flavor of that rogan josh gravy all the way in. This rogan josh to me was a bit of a mixed bag. I found the gravy a bit too sweet, and also, in a manner of speaking, it was a blessing that it hadn't seeped all the way in to that meat. On the inside, the mutton feels slightly on the blander side. Well, after the kebabs and the curries, now it's time to come to the biryani. And this is the Lucknowi Motiya gosht pulao, because I'm told in addition to the meat pieces in this, there's also motis of mutton keema. Still warm to the touch, and I'm happy to see that. So what's interesting here is that in addition to the meat pieces that you see, you also have motis of mutton mince, and out here they use the goat. Enough said, let's get to the eating. First the rice. Very gentle in its flavors. There's a whiff of the saffron that I'm tasting that perhaps goes over that biryani. It's a bit of the saffron milk or something like that. And then the flavor that comes from the onions. That's a very mild-mannered biryani. I want to taste that moti. I think that moti basically lengthens your enjoyment of the meat. इसमें शायद होंगे 2 या 3 टुकड़े मांस के, and then you get those little motis. So even when you're done with that main piece, you have some more. And now for some of that meat. I'm always happy to meet a piece of meat that also is making friends with some fat, right? Because that's where you have all the flavors. And I want to get to some of that in a hurry. Get some of that meat, that mamsa, along with a bit of the kobbu, the charbi. Quite tender. Well, I like the moistness of that meat. And this is a young goat that they use in their mutton dishes. I'm certainly appreciating the flavor of the mutton a lot more in this. For some reason, the meat in that rogan josh, especially on the inside, seemed a little bland, seemed a little lacking in flavor. But out here, because that meat has simmered in that akni before the rice being layered atop it, it's drunk up all the juices, it's drunk up all the spices. That veil of saffron that I'm tasting as a vapor almost in my mouth. You know, I like biryanis like this. You've got protein in different forms. So you've got motiya, the mutton of course, and then you also have the egg. Portions here are the sort that are quite substantial. If you order one appetizer, it comes with about 6 to 8 pieces, and if there are 4 of you or 5 of you sitting on the table, I think one portion is enough. Similarly, a biryani like this, after you've had the dal, after you've had the gravies, I think something like this could be happily shared between 3 people at least. Don't expect a biryani that's too spicy. Don't expect a biryani that's going to punch your palate. Expect a biryani that tells you, okay, you've eaten enough. Now it's time to slow things down a bit. Just relax. Relax your taste buds. And that's exactly the sort of biryani that this is. Mild, mellow, yet flavorful. There's that salad on the side, but I fear that when I taste some of this, it's going to be sharper than the flavor of the pulao. So when I walked in here, I didn't know what to expect. It's been a while since I've been here, but if you were to ask me, well, 44 years on too, Tandoor is certainly a place that is still worthy, not just of its prime address here on MG Road, but also of a deserving spot in Bengaluru's culinary landscape. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the review. Until the next time, take care. Happy eating. Well, they've also decided to highly recommend their Badam kheer here. There's plenty of almonds in it. Of course, it's a Badam kheer. And the rice. Nice and chilled, but then also has some weight with the rice. I think after all that I've eaten, agar ye dessert order karoge, so do it sharing, 1 by 2. Well, my bill is here. All the dishes that I've tasted amounts to 5123. If there are 4 of you who came and dined here and had a nice hearty big meal, so you probably would end up spending somewhere in the region of 2.5 to 3K is what I think you would spend. But you would go back happy, satisfied with the portions and also with the flavors that you will taste. You will enjoy some dishes more than the others, but that's typical to what usually happens in a restaurant. So that's it for this one. I'll see you on the next one. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe and hit the bell to stay notified of the next episode on Food Lovers TV. Bye.